Marcus Webb was 52 years old, and he'd been cleaning floors for most of his life. First back home in Georgia, mopping the floors of a grocery store while going to community college. Then at a factory after his daughter was born and money got tight. Now he was doing the same work, just in a different place. Way different. He was mopping floors on a space station called Celestia 7, floating somewhere between Earth and a dozen alien worlds he still couldn't pronounce properly. The Galactic Embassy was huge. Marble floors that seemed to glow in the dim night lighting. Walls made of some kind of crystal that shifted colors when you walked past. Ceilings so high you could barely see them. It was the kind of place that made you feel small, but Marcus didn't mind. He'd learned a long time ago that feeling small wasn't the same as being worthless. His mama had taught him that. She'd worked as a housekeeper her whole life, and she'd held her head high doing it. Marcus worked the graveyard shift, 11 at night until 7 in the morning. He preferred it that way. During the day the embassy was chaos. Diplomats rushing around, aliens of every shape and size arguing in languages that sounded like music or machinery or sometimes both. Robots delivering documents. Hover carts zooming past. Everyone was important, everyone was busy, and nobody noticed the maintenance crew. But at night it was peaceful. Most of the diplomats were sleeping or working in their private offices. The hallways were quiet except for the hum of the station's life support systems. Marcus would push his mop bucket from one section to another, cleaning up the day's mess, and he had time to think. Time to remember. He thought about his daughter Jenny a lot during these quiet hours. She was 20 years old now, studying engineering at a university back on Earth. She wanted to design starships, to build the vessels that carried people between worlds. Marcus was so proud of her he could burst. A single dad raising a smart girl who dreamed big. He'd done something right. The job paid decent. Not great but decent. Enough to help with Jenny's tuition and keep a little apartment on the station's residential level. He sent money home every month, and Jenny sent him messages about her classes, her projects, her life. It was enough. Tonight Marcus was assigned to the diplomatic wing's upper floors. This was where the really important people stayed. Royalty from alien worlds. Ambassadors who controlled entire star systems. People who probably spent more on a single meal than Marcus made in a month. Their hallways had to be spotless, perfectly maintained. Marcus didn't resent it. Work was work. He filled his bucket with cleaning solution, grabbed his mop and headed to the 5th floor. The carpet up here was some fancy material that never seemed to get dirty, but station policy said it had to be cleaned 3 times a week anyway. The walls were decorated with art from 100 different worlds. Sculptures that seemed to float in midair. Paintings that moved when you looked at them. Marcus had stopped being amazed by it all after the first month. Now it was just background. He started at the east corridor and worked his way west. Dip the mop, wring it out, push it in long, smooth strokes. It was rhythmic, almost meditative. And while he worked, Marcus hummed. He'd always hummed while working. It was another thing his mama had done. She'd sing old gospel songs while she cleaned houses, her voice carrying through empty rooms. After she passed, Marcus found himself doing the same thing. Not really singing, just humming. Old blues songs his daddy used to play on scratchy vinyl records. Church hymns from Sunday mornings when he was a kid. Sometimes just melodies that came to him, tunes without names. Tonight he was humming something soft and slow. A lullaby maybe, though he couldn't remember where he'd learned it. His mama used to sing it when storms rolled through and young Marcus couldn't sleep. Something about the melody made the world feel safer, calmer. He hummed it without thinking, letting the sound fill the empty hallway. He moved past door after door. Each one had a small plaque with names and titles in multiple languages. He couldn't read most of them. This one was somebody from the Tarvos system. That one was a trade minister from somewhere called Drelix 9. Another belonged to Valerian royalty, according to the symbol on the door. A princess if he remembered the briefing they'd given maintenance staff. Marcus paused outside that door to clean a scuff mark on the wall. Some diplomat had probably bumped it with a hover case. He scrubbed at it while humming his tune, not thinking about anything in particular. Just doing his job. Behind that door, Princess Lyria of Valor was lying in her bed, staring at the ceiling. She hadn't slept properly in 8 months. Her eyes burned with exhaustion. Her body ached. Her mind was racing with 1,000 thoughts that wouldn't stop, wouldn't slow down, wouldn't give her even a moment of peace. Her people, the Valerians, were empathic. They felt emotions the way humans felt heat or cold. It was a gift that made them excellent diplomats, able to sense what others were truly feeling beneath their words. But here on Celestia 7, surrounded by thousands of beings from hundreds of worlds, all broadcasting their feelings like radio signals, Lyria's gift had become a curse. She felt everything. The ambassador 3 floors down who was worried about a failing treaty. The security officer outside her door who missed his family. The station administrator who was angry about budget cuts. Fear and ambition and grief and joy and anger, all of it crashing through her mind like waves, never stopping, never giving her rest. She tried everything. Medications that left her groggy but still awake. Meditation techniques that didn't work when your mind was picking up everyone else's emotions. Shielding exercises that her people used, but they only helped for a few minutes before the flood came rushing back in. Her doctors were baffled. Her advisors were worried. And Lyria was so tired. Then she heard it. A sound from outside her door. A man's voice humming. Low and warm and gentle. A simple melody without any complexity, without any hidden meaning. Just a human tune, honest and pure. Lyria's racing thoughts began to slow. The voice wasn't broadcasting emotions at her. It was just sound, just music. Simple and real. The tune wrapped around her like a blanket, muffling the emotional noise that usually kept her awake. For the first time in months, the chaos in her mind began to quiet. Her eyes grew heavy. The humming continued, steady and calm. She felt her body relaxing, tension draining away. The last thing she heard before sleep finally took her was that human voice, humming a lullaby in the darkness. In the hallway, Marcus finished cleaning the scuff mark and moved on to the next section. He had 3 more corridors to do before his break. He kept humming the same gentle tune, completely unaware that behind one of those fancy doors, an alien princess was sleeping peacefully for the first time in almost a year. He was just doing his job, humming his songs, thinking about his daughter and what he'd have for breakfast when his shift ended. He had no idea that something as simple as humming while he worked had just changed someone's life. Marcus pushed his mop bucket down the hallway, his voice carrying softly. Commander Thrace had been in charge of Princess Lyria's security for 3 years. He was a Kelvorian, which meant he stood nearly 7 feet tall with gray skin and eyes that could see in almost complete darkness. He was good at his job. Excellent, actually. He'd kept the princess safe through political chaos, assassination attempts, and diplomatic disasters. But for the past 8 months, he'd been watching her slowly fall apart, and there was nothing he could do about it. The insomnia was killing her. Not quickly but steadily. Every day she looked worse. Her skin, which should have shimmered with subtle colors reflecting her emotions, had turned dull and gray. She struggled to focus during meetings. Her hands trembled when she signed documents. The royal physicians had tried everything they could think of. Nothing worked. Thrace kept detailed logs of everything. Security protocols required it. He tracked her sleep patterns using the medical monitors in her quarters. He recorded her vital signs, her movements, even her brain wave activity. For 8 months, those logs showed the same thing every night. Awake. Restless. No real sleep, just brief moments of exhausted collapse that didn't give her body any rest. Then something changed. 3 nights ago, the monitors showed something different. Princess Lyria had fallen asleep at 11:42 p.m. and stayed asleep for 7 straight hours. Real sleep, deep and restful. Her vital signs were better than they'd been in months. The next night the same thing happened. Asleep by 11:45, 7 hours of peaceful rest. The third night again. Asleep at 11:38. Thrace stared at the data logs in his office, trying to figure out what had changed. Had the physicians tried a new medication? Had she found some kind of meditation technique that finally worked? He checked the medical reports. Nothing new. No changes to her treatment plan. Lieutenant Kress, his second in command, walked into the office carrying a data pad. She was human, originally from somewhere called Detroit, and she'd been with the security team for 2 years. She was sharp, noticed things other people missed. "Commander, I think I found something," she said. Thrace looked up. "About the princess's sleep patterns?" "Yes, sir." She pulled up security footage on the wall screen. "I've been reviewing the hallway recordings from the past week. Watch this." The screen showed the corridor outside the royal suite. The timestamp read 11:23 p.m., 3 nights ago. The hallway was empty except for one person. A human man in maintenance coveralls pushing a mop bucket. He was middle-aged, average height, with dark skin and graying hair. He moved slowly down the corridor, mopping the floor, and he was humming. The audio was faint, but you could hear it. A low, gentle melody. "That's Marcus Webb," Kress said. "Maintenance worker. Been on the station for 2 years. He cleans the diplomatic wing 3 nights a week." So, Thrace didn't see the connection yet. Kress pulled up another screen, this one showing the princess's medical data. "Look at the timestamp. 11:42 she falls asleep. That's 19 minutes after Webb started working outside her door. Now watch this. She showed footage from the second night. Webb appeared in the hallway at 11:37, humming while he mopped. 18 minutes later, the medical data showed the princess falling asleep. The third night the same pattern. Webb arrived at 11:29. The princess was asleep by 11:38. 9 minutes. It's him, Cress said quietly. Or more specifically, it's the humming. I enhanced the audio. He hums while he works. Human music, old songs from Earth. When he's outside her door, she falls asleep. Thrace leaned back in his chair processing this. A janitor's humming was putting the princess to sleep. Sounded absurd. But the data didn't lie. The correlation was perfect. Every night Webb worked that corridor, the princess slept well. The nights he didn't work there, she was awake all night. Does she know? Thrace asked. I don't think so. The walls are thick, but sound carries through the ventilation system. She probably hears it without realizing where it's coming from. Thrace drummed his fingers on his desk, thinking. This was delicate. If they told the princess that her sleep depended on a random janitor's humming, it could create a psychological problem. She might become dependent on it, panic if he wasn't there. Or worse, if something happened to the janitor, if he got sick or transferred to another station, she'd know her solution was gone. On the other hand, she was negotiating the Tarvos Treaty right now. One of the most important diplomatic agreements in the sector. If she failed because she was too exhausted to think straight, the consequences would be catastrophic. Potentially even war. We need to keep him here, Thrace said finally. Webb. Keep him on this route, working outside her quarters every night. How? We don't control maintenance scheduling. Find a way. Talk to his supervisor. Offer overtime pay. Tell them the diplomatic wing needs extra attention during the treaty negotiations. I don't care what story you use, just make sure he's here. Cress nodded. What if someone asks questions? Other staff might notice we're keeping one specific janitor on the same route. Let them wonder. Our job is to keep the princess safe and functional. If that means manipulating a maintenance schedule, so be it. Over the next 2 weeks, Cress worked quietly to keep Marcus Webb on the diplomatic wing. She talked to his supervisor, a Drellian named Voss who managed the maintenance department. She explained that during the sensitive treaty negotiations, they needed consistent, trustworthy workers in the royal areas. Voss didn't ask many questions. He just adjusted the schedules. Webb seemed to notice something was off. Cress watched him on the security feeds. He'd occasionally pause, looking at his assignment sheet with a confused expression. The same corridor 3 times in 1 week. An area he'd just cleaned yesterday. But he never complained. He just did his work, pushing his mop bucket, humming his songs. The princess continued to sleep well. Her appearance improved. The gray pallor left her skin, replaced by the healthy shimmer her people normally had. She was sharper in the treaty negotiations, more focused. The Tarvos delegation, who'd been stonewalling for months, started actually engaging in productive discussions. Chancellor Drace, the princess's chief advisor, mentioned it during a security briefing. Her Highness seems renewed. Whatever the medical team is doing, it's working. Thrace and Cress exchanged a look but said nothing. Let them think it was medicine. Better that way. Everything was working perfectly. Until it wasn't. Thrace was reviewing security protocols in his office when Cress rushed in, her face tight with worry. We have a problem. Station administration just issued a maintenance department reorganization. They're redistributing staff across different sectors to balance workloads. Thrace felt his stomach drop. Webb. Reassigned. Effective immediately. He's being moved to Maintenance Bay 7 in the lower commercial sector. I tried to block it, but I don't have the authority. It's coming from station administration, way above our pay grade. Can we pull rank? Invoke security protocols. For what reason? That we need a specific janitor to hum outside the princess's door? They'll think we've lost our minds. Thrace stood up, pacing. How long until his schedule changes? It already has. Tonight he'll be working the lower bays. Someone else is assigned to the diplomatic wing. Does the princess know? Not yet. But she will when she can't sleep tonight. Thrace swore in his native language, a harsh clicking sound. They'd been managing the situation carefully for 2 weeks, keeping everything balanced, and now it was falling apart because of bureaucratic reshuffling. Maybe it won't matter, Cress suggested, though she didn't sound convinced. Maybe she's recovered enough now that she can sleep on her own. But that night, Marcus Webb worked in Maintenance Bay 7, 3 levels below and half a station away from the royal suite. The janitor who replaced him on the diplomatic wing was efficient and professional. He cleaned thoroughly and quietly, never making a sound. In her quarters, Princess Lyria lay in bed, waiting. She didn't know exactly what she was waiting for, but she'd come to expect it. That sound, that gentle humming that somehow quieted her mind. She waited for an hour. 2 hours. The humming never came. The emotions from thousands of beings on the station began creeping back in. Anxiety from someone worried about money. Anger from an argument 3 floors down. Loneliness from a security officer missing home. All of it pressing against her mind louder and louder. By morning she hadn't slept at all. By the second night she was struggling again. The exhaustion was back, the trembling hands, the unfocused thoughts. By the third night, Princess Lyria could barely stand. The treaty negotiations were falling apart. She couldn't concentrate, couldn't read the emotional currents in the room that had been helping her navigate the complex diplomatic waters. Thrace watched it happen, helpless. He tried everything he could think of to get Webb reassigned back to the diplomatic wing. Every request was denied. Station administration didn't care about one janitor's work location. On the 4th morning, after a disastrous negotiation session, Princess Lyria collapsed in her quarters. Thrace caught her before she hit the floor. "Get Dr. Hayes. Now." As he held the unconscious princess, Thrace made a decision. Protocol be damned. She needed to know the truth. And she needed to meet the man whose simple humming had given her peace. It was time for Marcus Webb to learn that his songs had been changing someone's life. Dr. Hayes arrived within 3 minutes of the call. She was a human doctor from Earth, one of the few who specialized in treating multiple alien species. She'd been working on Celestia 7 for 5 years, and she'd seen a lot of strange medical cases. But watching Princess Lyria deteriorate over the past few days had been particularly frustrating because she knew the princess had been doing better just a week ago. She ran her medical scanner over Lyria while Commander Thrace and Lieutenant Cress stood nearby, both looking worried. The princess was conscious now, but barely. She sat slumped on her couch, her skin dull gray, her eyes unfocused. She looked like she might pass out again at any moment. Dr. Hayes checked her readings and shook her head. Severe sleep deprivation. Empathic overload. Her mental shields are completely down. Commander, if this continues for another few days, we're looking at permanent neurological damage. Her brain literally cannot function without proper rest. Give her something, Thrace said, his voice tight. Sedatives, medication, anything. I've tried every sleep aid that's safe for Valerians. None of them work. Her empathic abilities override the medication. She can't shut out the emotional noise long enough to fall asleep. Dr. Hayes looked at her data pad, scrolling through medical records. Wait, this doesn't make sense. Her sleep patterns were perfect last week. 7 hours every night, deep REM sleep. Then 3 days ago it just stopped. What changed? Thrace and Cress looked at each other. The moment of truth had arrived. Tell me, Lyria whispered from the couch. Her voice was so quiet they almost didn't hear it. No more secrets. What happened 3 days ago? Thrace knelt beside her. He'd protected this woman for 3 years, taken injuries for her, would have died for her if necessary. But right now, the truth was the only thing that might save her. Your Highness, there was a human maintenance worker named Marcus Webb. He worked the hallways outside your quarters in the evenings. He had a habit of humming while he cleaned. Old Earth songs. We noticed that every night he was here, you slept peacefully. The correlation was exact. When he hummed outside your door, you fell asleep within minutes. Lyria stared at him, trying to process this through her exhausted mind. We kept him on that route, Thrace continued. Quietly adjusted his schedule to make sure he was always here during your bedtime. But 3 days ago, station administration reorganized the maintenance department. Webb was reassigned to a different section. We tried to stop it, but we didn't have the authority. Where is he now? Lyria's voice was suddenly clearer, focused. Maintenance Bay 7. Lower commercial sector. Bring him to me. Your Highness, there are protocols about. Commander. Despite her exhaustion, authority rang in her voice. I don't care about protocols. I don't care about what's proper or traditional. That man somehow gave me the first peaceful sleep I've had in 8 months, and I need to understand why. Bring him here. Now. Thrace stood. Yes, Your Highness. Marcus was trying to fix a malfunctioning cleaning bot when Commander Thrace found him. The maintenance bay was loud and hot, full of machinery and workers shouting over the noise. It was nothing like the quiet diplomatic wing. Marcus didn't hate it, but he missed the peaceful hallways where he could think. The cleaning bot kept making a grinding sound. Marcus had it opened up, checking the drive mechanism when a shadow fell over him. He looked up and saw a massive alien in a security uniform standing there. His first thought was that he'd done something wrong. His second thought was about Jenny. Had something happened to her? Marcus Webb. The alien's voice came through a translator device. That's me. Is something wrong? Is my daughter okay? Your daughter is fine. I'm Commander Thrace, head of security for Princess Lyria of Valor. She's requested to see you immediately. Marcus blinked. I'm sorry, what? A princess wants to see me? Yes. It's urgent. Please come with me. There must be a mistake. I'm just a janitor. I clean floors. Why would a princess want to? There's no mistake, Mr. Webb. This is very important. Please. Marcus set down his tools, completely confused. He wiped the grease off his hands with a rag and followed the commander. Other maintenance workers were staring. Marcus couldn't blame them. He was wondering if this was some kind of weird dream. They walked through corridors Marcus recognized. He'd cleaned most of them at some point. But this time he wasn't pushing a mop bucket. He was walking with security guards falling in step around him. People stared as they passed. A maintenance worker surrounded by armed guards. It looked like he was being arrested. When they reached the royal suite, Marcus's heart was pounding. The doors were huge, decorated with symbols he didn't understand. Commander Thrace gestured for him to enter. The room inside was like nothing Marcus had ever seen. The furniture looked like it cost more than he'd make in 10 years. Art from alien worlds covered the walls. Windows showed the stars outside, distant and cold. And sitting on a couch in the center of the room was a woman who looked both royal and completely exhausted. She wasn't human. Her skin had a crystalline quality, like it was made of very fine glass. It should have been shimmering with colors, but right now it looked dull and gray. Her eyes were large, deeply intelligent, but so tired. She looked like she might collapse at any second. Marcus Webb. Her voice was soft, accented by the translator. Yes, ma'am. Your Highness. I'm sorry, I don't know the right way to address you. If I did something wrong, I apologize. I didn't mean to. You did nothing wrong. She tried to straighten up, though it clearly cost her effort. Please sit down. I need to explain something. Marcus sat carefully on the edge of a chair that felt like it was worth more than his life. He had no idea what was happening. Do you hum when you work? Lyria asked. The question caught him completely off guard. Yes. I do. Old habit. Helps the time pass. Is that against regulations? Because I can stop, I didn't know it was a problem. Please don't stop. The desperation in her voice was unmistakable. Marcus, my people are empathic. We feel the emotions of everyone around us. In a place like this station with thousands of beings, all those feelings. She pressed a hand to her temple. It's overwhelming. I haven't been able to sleep properly in 8 months. The emotional noise never stops. I've tried everything. Medication, therapy, meditation. Nothing worked. Marcus was beginning to understand, though it seemed impossible. 2 weeks ago, you worked outside my quarters in the evenings, Lyria continued. You hummed while you cleaned. I didn't know what it was at first, just a sound drifting through the door. But for the first time in 8 months, my mind became quiet. The emotional chaos faded. Your humming, it was pure. No hidden emotions, no agenda, just simple music. And I fell asleep. She looked directly at him, and Marcus saw tears forming in her eyes. My security team discovered the pattern. They kept you on that route without telling either of us. For 2 weeks, I slept peacefully every night. I could think clearly. I could do my job. Then you were reassigned and... Her voice cracked. I haven't slept in 3 days. There's a treaty negotiation happening right now that could prevent a war. Millions of lives depend on it. And I can't function because my mind won't stop screaming. She took a shaky breath. I know this is strange. I know you don't know me. I'm asking something unusual. But would you help me? Come here in the evenings and hum like you did before. Just until I finish these negotiations. I'll pay you whatever you want. I'll give you anything you need. Please. Marcus looked at this alien princess, sitting in her expensive room, begging a janitor for help. He thought about Jenny, about the nights when she was little and couldn't sleep. He'd sit by her bed and sing to her. Simple songs, the same ones his mama had sung to him. Music had always been his family's way of showing love. You don't need to pay me, Marcus said quietly. If humming helps you sleep, I'll do it. It's just music. Nothing difficult about that. Lyria's eyes widened. You'll help? Just like that. My mama used to say that music soothes the soul. She'd hum while she worked, sing when people were sad. It was her way of making the world a little better. Marcus smiled gently. I guess some things work the same everywhere, even out here in space. A tear rolled down Lyria's crystalline cheek. Thank you. You have no idea what this means. I think I do, Marcus said. You're tired, you need rest, and somehow my humming helps. That's enough reason for me. Dr. Hayes, who'd been standing quietly to the side, spoke up. Your Highness, you should try to sleep now. You need rest before tonight's negotiation session. Lyria nodded. She looked at Marcus. Would you? Right now. If you don't mind. Marcus stood. Where do you want me? Just outside my bedroom door. Where you were before. They showed him to a comfortable chair in the hallway just outside her bedroom. It felt strange, sitting in a royal suite, but Marcus had learned long ago not to overthink things. The princess needed help. He could provide it. Simple as that. He settled into the chair and started humming. The same song from that first night, the lullaby his mama used to sing during storms. Low and gentle, letting the melody carry through the quiet room. Inside her bedroom, Lyria lay down on her bed. She could hear the humming through the door, that warm human voice with no complications, no hidden meanings. Just music. Her racing mind began to slow. The emotional noise from the station faded to background static. For the first time in 3 days, peace found her. Within 10 minutes, Princess Lyria was asleep. Marcus kept humming for another 20 minutes just to be sure. Then he sat quietly for a while, thinking about how strange life could be. A few weeks ago he was just a janitor nobody noticed. Now he was sitting in a royal suite, helping an alien princess sleep with the same songs his mama had taught him 50 years ago. Sometimes, he thought, the simplest things turned out to be the most important. And sometimes kindness didn't require anything more complicated than being willing to hum a tune for someone who needed it. He stood up quietly and let himself out. Commander Thrace was waiting in the main room. She's asleep, Marcus said. Thank you, Mr. Webb. Can you return tonight? Same time? Sure. What time do you need me? 10:30 would be ideal. Marcus nodded. I'll be here. As he walked back to the maintenance bay, Marcus smiled to himself. Wait until he told Jenny about this. His daughter was always saying he was capable of more than he gave himself credit for. Now he had proof. He was officially a princess's sleep aid. Not exactly what she meant, but it was something. The first few nights were awkward. Marcus would show up at 10:30 sharp, Commander Thrace would let him into the royal suite, and he'd sit in that comfortable chair outside Princess Lyria's bedroom. He'd hum for 30 or 40 minutes until the security monitors showed she'd fallen into deep sleep. Then he'd quietly leave, nodding to Thrace on his way out. Nobody spoke much. It was just a job, a strange one, but still just a job. Marcus hummed different songs each night. Church hymns he remembered from Sunday mornings as a kid. Blues songs his daddy used to play on an old record player that skipped every few seconds. Work songs his mama sang while cooking dinner after a long shift. Sometimes he'd just make up melodies as he went, letting the tunes flow naturally. He never really thought about what he was humming. It was just what felt right in the moment. On the fourth night something changed. Marcus had finished humming and was standing up to leave when he heard her voice through the door. Marcus? Are you still there? He paused, surprised. Yes, ma'am. You need something? Could we talk? Just for a moment? Marcus sat back down, a bit uncertain. Sure. What's on your mind? Through the door, Lyria's voice was soft, almost hesitant. I wanted to thank you properly. I know this must seem absurd to you. A princess who needs a janitor to hum outside her door just so she can sleep. It's embarrassing, honestly. Nothing embarrassing about it, Marcus said. You've got a problem, you found something that helps. That's just smart, not embarrassing. There was a pause. You're very kind to see it that way. Most people in my position would never admit to needing help from someone like... She trailed off, clearly worried she'd said something offensive. Someone like a janitor? Marcus chuckled. Ma'am, I've been cleaning floors most of my life. I know where I stand in the world. Doesn't bother me. My mama taught me that all honest work has dignity. Doesn't matter if you're mopping floors or signing peace treaties. Work is work. Your mother sounds like she was a wise woman. She was. Raised 3 boys by herself after my daddy left. Worked 3 jobs, never complained once. She'd sing while she worked, said music made the hard days easier. Marcus smiled at the memory. She's been gone 15 years now, but I still hear her voice sometimes. That's why I hum, I guess. Keeps her close. I'm sorry for your loss. Thank you. But she had a good life. She saw me raise my daughter, met her grandbaby before she passed. That meant everything to her. You have a daughter? Jenny. She's 20, studying engineering at a university back on Earth. Wants to design starships. The pride in Marcus's voice was unmistakable. Smartest person I know. Gets that from her mother. Her mother? Lyria asked gently. Died when Jenny was 3. Cancer. After that, it was just me and my baby girl. Marcus leaned back in his chair. Those were hard years. Working double shifts, trying to be both parents, making sure she had everything she needed. But we made it through. She's going to do amazing things. They talked for another 20 minutes that night. Lyria asked about Earth, about raising a child alone, about what life was like for ordinary people on the station. Marcus told her stories about Jenny learning to ride a bike, about teaching her to change a tire, about the day she got accepted to university, and they both cried happy tears. It became their routine. Marcus would arrive at 10:30, hum his songs until Lyria grew drowsy, then they'd talk through the door. 15 minutes, sometimes 20. They never saw each other during these conversations. Just two voices in the darkness, sharing pieces of their lives. Lyria began opening up more. She talked about the weight of her responsibilities, how every decision she made affected millions of people. How lonely it was being royalty, always watched, always judged. Everyone wanted something from her. Advisors wanted her to follow their strategies. Diplomats wanted her to favor their positions. Even her own family had expectations that felt crushing sometimes. Do you ever wish you were someone else? She asked one night. Someone with a simpler life? Marcus thought about it. Sometimes, yeah. When money's tight or I'm tired of cleaning up other people's messes. But then I think about my daughter, about the life we built together. About my mama and how proud she'd be. And I realize I wouldn't trade places with anyone. My life is mine. That means something. That's a beautiful way to see it. What about you? You ever wish you were just a regular person? Lyria laughed softly. All the time. But then I think about the people depending on me, the good I might be able to do. If I can prevent a war, save lives, help people find peace, isn't that worth the burden? Sounds like we're more alike than different, Marcus said. You're doing important work up there. I'm doing simple work down here. But we're both trying to make things a little better in our own way. As the days passed, their conversations deepened. Lyria told him about the treaty negotiations, how complicated and frustrating they were. The Tarvos delegation was proud and stubborn. They interpreted every compromise as weakness. She couldn't find common ground with them. They respect strength, she explained. But I can't just bully them into an agreement. That's not real peace. I need them to actually want this treaty, to see the benefit. But every time I try to be flexible, they push harder. Marcus was quiet for a moment, thinking. I worked in a factory once. The foreman was this tough ex-military guy. Real hard case, didn't trust anyone. Most workers were scared of him, tried to stay out of his way. But I learned something about men like that. What's that? They don't respect you for never pushing back. They respect you for knowing when to push back and when to bend. It's not about being weak or strong. It's about having a backbone and choosing when to use it. Show strength first, then offer flexibility as a choice, not a weakness, Lyria murmured. Something like that. Let them know you can stand firm, then show them you're choosing to be reasonable. Makes all the difference. The next day in negotiations, Lyria tried Marcus's advice. When the Tarvos ambassador pushed on minor procedural points, she pushed back firmly, not budging an inch. But on the larger issues, she offered creative compromises, presenting them as strategic choices rather than concessions. She made it clear she was being flexible because she wanted to, not because she had to. The ambassador's whole demeanor shifted. He actually started listening, engaging with her proposals instead of just dismissing them. By the end of the session, they'd made more progress than they had in the previous month combined. That night, Lyria was excited. Marcus, it worked. Your advice. They're actually negotiating now instead of just stonewalling. How did you know that would work? Just life experience, I guess. You deal with enough people over the years, you start to see patterns. Folks aren't as different as they seem, whether they're human or alien, workers or ambassadors. You have more wisdom than most of my advisors, Lyria said. They overthink everything, look for complex strategies. You just see what's real. That's because I don't have anything to prove. No career to protect, no political games to play. I can just tell you what I honestly think. Their evening conversations became the best part of both their days. Lyria shared the crushing pressure of representing her entire world, the fear that she'd make a mistake that would cost lives. Marcus talked about the satisfaction of simple work, about finding dignity in being useful, about learning to be happy with what you have. One night, Lyria asked him about loneliness. Don't you get lonely? Living on a space station, your daughter far away on Earth. Sure, Marcus admitted. I miss Jenny every day. Miss Earth sometimes too, the way grass smells after rain, the sound of crickets at night. But being lonely and being alone are different things. I've got my work, got friends in the maintenance crew. And now I've got these conversations with you. That's enough. These conversations mean a lot to me too, Lyria said quietly. More than you probably realize. Everyone else treats me like a princess first, a person second. You just talk to me like I'm anyone else. That's because you are anyone else. You've got a fancier job than me, sure. But you get tired, you worry about doing well, you want to help people. Same as anyone. The crown doesn't change that. Other people on the station started noticing Marcus's visits to the royal suite. Word spread the way it always does in close quarters. A human janitor spending time with an alien princess. Some people whispered. Some made assumptions. Chancellor Drace, Lyria's chief advisor, pulled Marcus aside one day in the corridor. He was a tall Valerian with silver hair and a stern expression. Mr. Webb, there are questions being asked about your relationship with Princess Lyria. Marcus met his gaze steadily. I help her sleep. That's all. Some find it inappropriate. A commoner spending private time with royalty. Let them think what they want, Marcus said calmly. The princess asked for help. I'm helping. There's nothing inappropriate about kindness. The appearance of impropriety. Chancellor, with all due respect, I don't care about appearances. I care about helping someone who needs it. If people want to gossip, that's their problem, not mine. When Lyria heard about the whispers and the concerns, she was furious. At the next diplomatic reception, she stood before the assembled dignitaries and addressed it directly. I want to make something very clear, she announced, her voice carrying across the hall. Marcus Webb is my friend. He has helped me when I desperately needed it. In doing so, he's enabled me to serve all of you better. Anyone who questions this friendship can speak to me directly. The room went silent. Royalty didn't typically claim friendship with maintenance workers. It just wasn't done. Marcus was delivering fresh linens to the reception when he heard her speech. He caught her eye across the crowded room. She smiled at him, warm and genuine, and he smiled back. That night, when he arrived for their evening routine, Lyria thanked him for understanding. I meant what I said, she told him through the door. You are my friend. You're mine too, Marcus replied simply. And he began to hum. 6 weeks after Marcus first sat outside Princess Lyria's door, the treaty signing ceremony took place in the station's grand hall. Marcus had cleaned that hall dozens of times, usually at 3 in the morning when it was empty and quiet. He'd mopped those floors, polished those columns, wiped down those enormous windows that looked out into space. But he'd never seen it like this. The room was packed with hundreds of beings from across the galaxy. Diplomats in elaborate robes. Military officers in dress uniforms. Reporters with cameras that floated in the air, recording everything. The lighting was dramatic, making everything look more important than it probably was. Marcus sat way in the back with the other station staff, feeling out of place in his clean maintenance uniform. He'd thought about not coming at all, but Lyria had specifically asked him to be there. The main table sat on a raised platform at the front of the hall. Princess Lyria sat at the center, flanked by the Tarvos ambassador and representatives from 4 other star systems. They all looked serious and important. Marcus could barely see Lyria from where he sat, but even from this distance, she looked different from the exhausted woman he'd first met. She sat straight, confident, alert. Nothing like the person who'd been barely able to stand 6 weeks ago. The ceremony began with formal speeches. The Tarvos ambassador talked about cooperation and mutual strength. The station administrator praised diplomatic persistence. Various other officials said things that sounded important but mostly seemed like fancy ways of saying they were all going to try to get along better. Then each representative signed the treaty document. It was all very ceremonial, with special pens and multiple copies and cameras capturing every moment. Marcus wondered if all this formality was really necessary, but he supposed when you were preventing a potential war, you wanted to make it official. After the signing, Princess Lyria stood to give her speech. The hall grew quiet. This treaty represents months of difficult work by many dedicated individuals, she began. Her voice was clear and strong, carrying across the huge space. But I want to acknowledge someone whose contribution may seem small to some, but was absolutely essential. Marcus felt a strange prickling sensation on the back of his neck. He had a sudden bad feeling about where this was going. 6 weeks ago I was failing, Lyria said simply. The hall was completely silent now. My condition made it impossible for me to sleep, and without rest I couldn't think clearly. I couldn't negotiate effectively. I was barely functional. Then I received help from a completely unexpected source. No, Marcus thought. Please don't. Marcus Webb, would you please stand? Every head in the hall turned. Hundreds of eyes looking for whoever Marcus Webb was. Commander Thrace, standing near the maintenance section, caught Marcus's eye and gestured urgently. Stand up. Marcus stood slowly, his face burning. He'd never been comfortable with attention. His whole life he preferred to work quietly in the background, doing his job without fuss. Now every single person in this enormous hall was staring at him. Marcus works in the maintenance department here on Celestia 7, Lyria continued. He cleans floors, fixes equipment, keeps the station running. He had no idea, but his simple habit of humming while he worked gave me something I desperately needed. The ability to rest. And through our conversations over these past weeks, his honest perspective helped me see solutions I'd been missing. The whispers started then, rippling through the crowd. A janitor? She's talking about a janitor? His humanity, in the most literal sense, made this treaty possible, Lyria said, looking directly at Marcus across the crowded hall. He didn't help me because he wanted recognition or reward. He helped because it was the right thing to do. Because someone needed help and he could provide it. That is the spirit I hope this treaty embodies. That we recognize wisdom and value can come from anywhere, from anyone, regardless of their position or status. She paused, still holding his gaze. Thank you, my friend. The applause started slowly, uncertainly. Then it built, growing louder. Hundreds of beings from dozens of worlds, clapping for a maintenance worker who'd just been doing his job. Marcus stood there, overwhelmed, not sure what to do with his hands. He wasn't good at this kind of thing. The ceremony eventually ended, but Marcus's ordeal wasn't over. People swarmed him immediately. Diplomats wanted to shake his hand. Reporters wanted interviews. Everyone had questions. How had he done it? What was his secret? What was it like being friends with a princess? Marcus tried to explain that there was no secret, that he'd just hummed some old songs his mama taught him. But nobody seemed satisfied with that answer. They wanted something deeper, some profound wisdom. The truth that kindness was simple didn't seem impressive enough. Someone from the Tarvos delegation offered him a job as a cultural liaison. A Valerian official suggested he become an advisor on human-alien relations. One reporter asked if he'd consider writing a book about his experience. The offers kept coming, each one more elaborate than the last. Fancy titles, good pay, important-sounding responsibilities. Marcus politely declined all of them. He could see people were confused by that. Why would anyone turn down opportunities like these? Later, after the crowd had thinned, Lyria found him hiding in a quiet corridor. She was still in her ceremonial robes, looking tired but happy. I'm sorry, she said. I didn't mean to make you uncomfortable. But you deserved recognition. It's okay, Marcus said, though he still felt shaken by all the attention. I appreciate what you said. Really. But all those job offers. I'm turning them down. Lyria didn't look surprised. Why? Because I like my job. I like the quiet, the routine. I like knowing at the end of my shift that I fixed something or cleaned something or made something work better. That's who I am. He smiled. Those fancy positions with important titles, that's not me. I'd be miserable. Of course you would, Lyria said softly. That's exactly why you're you. You know who you are and you're comfortable with it. Most people spend their whole lives trying to be something they're not. She reached into her robes and pulled out a small device. It was elegant, made of silver metal with intricate designs carved into its surface. It looked expensive and delicate. Since you won't accept the job, I'd like to give you something else. A gift, not payment. Marcus took it carefully. What is it? A holographic audio recorder. I've loaded it with recordings of you humming over the past 6 weeks. Every song you sang. Her voice grew quieter, more vulnerable. So even when you're not there, even when I go back to my home world, I can still hear your voice. I can still sleep. Marcus looked at the device, feeling a lump in his throat. He thought about his mama, about how he still heard her voice in his head all these years later. Music and memory, all tangled together. You're going to be okay, he said. After you leave here. You're strong enough now. I am. Because of you. Lyria smiled. But I'm also establishing something else. A cultural exchange program between Valor and Earth. We're going to bring human music, art, literature, philosophy to my worlds. What you gave me, that simple humanity, that honest perspective, my people need to experience it too. That sounds like a good thing. It is. And when the program launches next year, I'd like you to come visit. You and your daughter. I'd love to meet Jenny, hear about her starship designs. Marcus thought about Jenny's face when he told her about all this. His little girl who dreamed of traveling the stars, getting an invitation to visit an alien world. Yeah, he said. We'd like that. They stood there in the quiet corridor, an unlikely pair. A princess and a janitor who'd somehow become real friends. I should get back, Marcus said eventually. Got a shift starting in an hour. Of course. Lyria's eyes were warm. Thank you, Marcus. For everything. Thank you, Your Highness. For reminding me that sometimes the smallest things matter most. Marcus walked back toward the maintenance section, past all the fancy decorations and important people. He passed Chancellor Drace, who nodded respectfully. He passed Commander Thrace, who actually smiled. Word had spread fast. The janitor who'd befriended a princess and helped prevent a war. But by the time Marcus reached the maintenance bay, grabbed his mop bucket and headed to his assigned corridor, things felt normal again. He was just another worker doing his job. And that felt right. He started mopping, falling into the familiar rhythm. Dip, ring, push. Over and over. And while he worked, he hummed. The same songs his mama had taught him all those years ago. Simple melodies that had somehow carried across the galaxy and changed lives. A young woman was working nearby, also in maintenance uniform. She was new, maybe 19 or 20. She'd been watching Marcus all day, ever since the ceremony. Finally she worked up the courage to approach him. Mr. Webb? I heard what you did. For the princess. That was really incredible. Marcus paused his mopping. Just helped someone who needed it. Nothing special. But it was special, she said earnestly. You showed that people like us, regular workers, we matter too. That we can make a difference. Marcus thought about that. About his mama working 3 jobs. About all the maintenance workers who kept the station running while diplomats got the credit. About every person doing honest work that nobody noticed. We've always mattered, he said gently. Sometimes it just takes the right person to notice. The young woman smiled and went back to her work. Marcus returned to his mopping, humming softly. Weeks passed. Life returned to normal. Lyria went back to her home world, taking with her the treaty that would keep peace in the sector. Marcus kept working his maintenance routes, kept sending money to Jenny, kept living his simple life. But one day a message came through on his data pad. A video from Lyria showing the construction of a massive building on her home world. The architecture was beautiful, mixing Valerian and human design elements. The cultural center, Lyria's voice explained in the video. Opening next month. We'll have human music playing, human art displayed, human philosophy being studied. You changed more than just me, Marcus. You changed how my entire world sees humanity. The video showed Valerians walking through galleries, listening to jazz and blues and gospel music. Children learning about Earth. Scholars discussing human approaches to problem solving and ethics. All because one man had hummed some old songs while mopping a floor. Marcus saved the message, then went back to work. He had corridors to clean, equipment to fix. His daughter would call tomorrow, excited about her latest project. Life was good. That night, before bed, Marcus looked out his small apartment window at the stars. Somewhere out there, on a world he'd probably never fully understand, people were learning about humanity through the songs his mama had taught him. She'd have been proud of that. She'd always said music could change the world. Turned out she was right, just on a bigger scale than either of them had ever imagined. Marcus smiled, thinking about kindness and music and the strange ways simple things could ripple outward. Then he started humming softly to himself, the same lullaby he'd sung to Lyria that very first night. Because some songs were meant to be shared. Some kindness was meant to spread. And sometimes, the most ordinary person could do the most extraordinary thing, just by being willing to help when someone needed it. That was enough. That was everything.